Hello, how are you?
I'm all right.
Yeah, fantastic. It's interesting to be back on this thing again.
Yeah.
Introduction, the podcast, I haven't been here for a while. It's been a while. I've missed you.
Yeah.
And that other person who's on here as well.
Oh, I keep forgetting who that is.
There was another person. I can't remember the name.
See, I talk to them almost every week, but they're just one of those people you just can't remember.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I feel bad for it, really. I know it's almost insulting, but when you can't help it, it's just...
Yeah.
I want to say Joel.
No, not quite. I'd feel bad for her if I remembered.
It was a her, yes.
Yeah, it's definitely her, I'm sure.
We'll call it Judy Doe.
Yeah, that's better.
No, Jane Doe. Jane Doe. Well, it's nice to be back with you too, even though it's only you here at the moment. Dropping in back from whatever it is I was doing, and just seeing how have things been with you anyway.
They've been good, because we're going to be talking about something later on, but we're talking about collecting.
Yes.
I've been looking at first editions, like books. And do you know how much some of those first editions can bloody go for? I've
seen in a bookstore in Canary Wharf, there were some bookstores that actually deal in specifically first editions.
Yeah.
And some of them I saw were going for like £600, £900 from what I saw.
I've seen on one of these websites something going for like 30,000. And it's just a pretty normal book. It's ridiculous.
How old was it?
I think this one was sometime in the 1800s. It's like a really collectible item, but it's ridiculously expensive. I'm like, how can it be worth like 30,000? That's like there's other ones there as well going even like I'm sure I saw something like for 60,000. I mean that's like half a house you're buying there. It's ridiculous. And like
I can understand it, because even if it was just a mundane object, if it was made in the 1800s, chances are, if it's a rare one, that would probably go for something half of that price. But a rare book, so there's a lot of time and effort put into it as well. So with a famous name attached.
I kind of get the rareness bit of it, but like there's some you think are ridiculously expensive. Like you can have a first edition in like crappy condition, but you can still sell it for like hundreds. And like Jules Verne, he's like, you're lucky if you get a first edition of his in the hundreds. Some of them go for like thousands. Ridiculous. And he's not even that rare, actually.
Thousands. Like that was the 1800s, and these things are going for what, like £30,000 or something? And yet, in the 90s, if you have some first edition Pokemon cards, those can go for thousands of almost equivalent pricing, really. I think the Charizard card can go for about 15,000.
Wow. Shiny Charizard.
The shiny Charizard, yeah. The original first edition ones as well. Yeah. And there's one I think that was sold for about 200,000. That was like a special edition holiday Pikachu or some sort of promo card that only 5 in the world were made or something like that. So it's just interesting that something that was only about maybe 20 years ago is outselling first edition books from the 1800s.
I wish I had more ones I had when I was younger, sometimes.
Well, you can borrow some of mine if you can get a good price for them.
Yeah, I used to love collecting those Pokemon cards.
I mean, I never learned to play it properly until the last minute, and then by that point, there was no point. Yeah, I felt like that was a bit of a waste, but then no one else did. So
yeah, I never once. I tried playing it once with my friend, and it wasn't actually that interesting to play. Because you always think it was just the Game Boy version, really.
Exactly. You've got a Game Boy, you don't need to play cards,
Yeah.
Although I did think the strategy thing was quite cool. I've liked the look of these Japanese card games. They look cool, the Yu-Gi-Ohs and the Pokemons and all that, but never really got into them because it is a money suck, and it just looks a bit complicated as well. But I like how complex they can get.
Yeah. There was a game, I can't remember if it was Yu-Gi-Oh! Or it was one of those ones at school. It's like all the really geeky kids kind of played that one.
Oh, was that Magic the Gathering?
I don't know. I don't think so. I can't remember what it's called. No. But yeah, that could have its own club or something like that, which people would play. And that sounded really complicated. Like, I can never quite get into the really complicated stuff.
Well, me neither. But I like to be able to get into one of them, because when these people get into them, they focus on that one thing and that thing only, and there's no room for anything else.
Yeah.
But I actually used to like I still do, actually. You remember those, the Warhammer tabletop game?
Vaguely kind of remember that.
It's where you kind of paint your own models and you have like codexes and all these different strategies and rules and stuff. And it's kind of cool. I think I like the lore more than the actual game itself, though. I've never learned to play the game. But yeah, it's quite cool. It's quite fun. But I'm not sure if I hoard them. You know, I don't exactly collect enough to encapsulate myself in my house, you know?
Yeah. I'll tell you what I like to hoard. I like to hoard Segway.
Segway?
Yeah, that's what I hoard.
Damn, yeah, that's a hoarding. That's
something to hoard.
That's a hoarding mission. That's definitely a good one, actually. Segways, yeah. Do you just go around town and find them in the trash and take them in, or do you buy a couple of new ones every now and then?
Yeah, wherever I can get them. I'll go through anything to get a Segway.
Rescue. That sounds like a 90s advert.
Yeah.
Well, I support you in your Segway dreams, you know. Would you ever chuck them out? Would you cry if you were forced to?
Oh, definitely.
No one likes being detached from nerve-ending objects, do they? I mean, I wouldn't want that to happen to my stuff. So, no. I mean, I think I've got a couple of old Ruby beer bottles that I won't give away, and that's when it gets really bad, when you attach the rubbish. So, yeah, but not like some of these other hoarders.
No.
They kind of hoard random things, like rancid packets of crisps and stuff like that.
Yeah, that kind of stuff's just strange. But, well, I think we should do intro music now.
A good point. Oh, can I?
You can do the honours if you want.
Yes! It's been so long. Intro music!
Welcome to the Dorks Deduction Podcast, where we talk about stuff.
You know, me and Tom don't actually do that now. where you shout it out. We just go silent now.
I've brought the sexy back, baby.
Yeah.
If you want me to go really old school, let me do an old intro. Live from the liquor store behind behind the highway. It's time once again for Dork Seduction.
Welcome to the Dorks Deduction Podcast, where we talk about stuff.
See, I think that's what we need in our podcast more, but only you can do it, so...
A loud, obnoxious male.
Yeah, I mean, I can't do that.
You've got a nice voice. I've got a loud voice, but I do take pride in how fucking dumb deep it can get.
Yeah, I think you'd make a good announcer.
If I can remember the words, yeah.
That's part of it, I suppose.
That's a big part of it. Having the voice is one thing, that's the easy part, but remembering how to do words, yes, that's the next battle. But hey ho, maybe one day.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about hoarding this episode, aren't we?
Yes, we are. I had this specifically hand-picked from the British Museum just for you. I went through the archives with my gloves and I dusted off an old book. And it details the history of New York.
That's way too much research for this podcast.
But only the best for the Dorks Deduction with Matt and Jane. So she's going to kill me. I found this story about two brothers called the Collyer Brothers who lived in New York back in the early 21st century. And they kind of they were quite rich. They were born in 1881 till about their deaths in 1947. They lived in New York. I think it was Queens, actually, back when it was quite a well-off area and not the Queens we know now. Or was it Harlem? Anyway, I'll go through it.
I think it's Harlem, I seem to remember hearing.
Was it Harlem? I remember it was one of the worn-down areas, but yeah, it must be Harlem in which case. But they travelled to America from England itself. Oh, well, their ancestors had anyway. And they claimed this as one of their rises to fame. You know, they were one of the original English families to come in on the Mayflower.
Ah, right.
And basically they had all their riches stemmed from there. But they were like the original immigrants, basically.
Yeah.
Basically, these two brothers, they lived a well-off life. Like, they lived through the Depression, and even in the Depression, they weren't really strapped for cash at all. They still had a good sort of fortune to their heads.
Yeah, so not like
just,
the Grey Ladies or something like that.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
The brothers we'll be focusing on are Homer and Langley. Their father, Herman Collyer, he bought a building called the Brownstone in Harlem, back when it was quite a rich area on the 2078 Fifth Avenue, New York, which now stands as a pocket park in memory to the old stone building and the brothers themselves. But he had two sons, Homer and Langley, both who were pretty much prodigies in their own right. Homer, he attended a public school at the age of 14. He was accepted to the College of New York as a sub-freshman. And he earned his bachelor's degree 6 years later, so, it's already put us to shame.
Jesus.
They both attended Columbia University as well, and it was quite a formidable family in terms of how smart they were. In a way, it's kind of tragic how these kind of intelligent men, everyone has a flaw.
Yeah.
Even the smartest person can be somewhere on the spectrum,
Yeah. They seem like they're clever people.
Langley was an accomplished pianist. And he played professionally for a time, performed at Carnegie Hall. Langley was also a layman of the Trinity Church.
Yeah.
So his families have been parishioners since 1697. So it's a long extended tradition of that as well.
Yeah.
And then it was in 1909 when Herman Collyer, their father, moved them into a 4-story brownstone in Harlem at 2078 Avenue, Fifth Avenue. And for a time, that's where they relayed themselves. That's where they lived.
Yeah.
It was good for a time. Around 1919, Herman and Susie, their mother, separated. Mr. Collyer moved into a new home at 153 West 77th Street, while Susie stayed in the Harlem brownstone. Homer and Langley, who had never married or lived on their own, chose to remain with their mother. Dr. Collyer died in 1923, leaving his sons all of their possessions. Now, this is where things start to get a little bit troubled, because after their father died, they all stayed in the brownstone anyway. They were already there to begin with, but they inherited all of Mr. Collyer's junk, and there was a lot of junk.
Wow.
But instead of just selling it or getting rid of it, they just hoarded it into the brownstone. And there's a lot of interesting things that they actually included, as well as a complete motor car of the time, which they disassembled and put into their house as well. There were many things, and some of the things they found were bones, probably for science purposes, a whole library of books, many weird knickknacks, and just interesting and slightly terrifying things that they just hid in their home, which makes their seclusion all the more creepy, really. And then finally, in 1929, Susie Collyer died, the mother, leaving the brothers all her possessions and the Harlem brownstone. So now these two are on their own. And the fact that they'd never lived by themselves, or the fact that they probably were quite close to their mother, may have led to this hoarding problem. Because you see that a lot. Like in other shows, you'll see that hoarding can sometimes be triggered by a family member dying and then not wanting to let go. These people just cling on to everything, and then it creeps over.
Yeah, wanting to keep that connection to the person that's died.
It does make sense, everyone's been through something like that, so it's just, you don't want to let go on certain things, and that itself, by not letting go of those things, you develop a passion to not let go of anything. So again, it's a very interesting state of mind, really, and I can't fault the brothers for doing what they did, even though they were quite rich. It's actually interesting how they went off the grid after that.
Yeah.
After their mother's death, the Collyer brothers continued to live in the Harlem brownstone they inherited, but for the next 4 years, the brothers socialised with others. They did everything normally on a regular basis, Homer was still in law, he still practiced, and Langley was still a piano dealer, because that's another thing. He was an accomplished pianist, but he started his own piano dealership, and they actually found a bunch of old unused pianos that were still ready to be packed in his home, complete and ready to be played as well, which is quite sad. Homer lost his eyesight in 1933 due to hemorrhages in the back of his eyes. So Langley decided to quit his job to care for his brother, and the two began to withdraw from society as it got a little bit more strained. Probably because, you want to take care of this last member of your family while they're still alive. It'd just be on the safe side.
Yeah.
As time progressed, though, the brothers became a little bit fearful to changes in the neighbourhood. During the Great Depression, Harlem became something a little less glamorous, so all the big families moved out. There was a lot more, They weren't rich families that moved in. I don't want to say that. Man. No, there were a lot less richer people that moved in, and the stereotype was, this is a problematic neighbourhood now because people were more desperate. There was a Great Depression. The brothers were uncomfortable with the shift in racial demographics, and plus, bear in mind, they were still quite well off. So there were all rumours about them that they had treasures in their house, and being so disassociated with poorer people, this could cause problems to them, but especially for them who were very socially departed from everything else.
Yeah.
Oh, and also they were probably racist, by the way, because as the racial demographics shifted, that started to leave less and less. This amount of reasons maybe why the brothers chose to lock themselves from the world. And then Langley was one of the people that, one of his words was, "We just don't want to be bothered. We just don't want to be bothered by anyone." They really just enjoyed their own company, and they didn't want to move out and talk to anyone. So this was the beginning of quite a long time period of them just being hoarded up in this house, only leaving at night for Langley to get food from maybe the next town over or something. But, they were never seen, really.
Yeah.
Aside from a couple of run-ins with police who had to knock on the door because they weren't paying bills. They had a very unconventional lifestyle, and this was all while Homer and his condition was deteriorating as well. So obviously, with neighbourhoods, unchecked rumours, started to spread that there were valuables and large sums of money, and several people even attempted to burgle into their home. But because of this, Langley started to go all Home Alone, Macaulay Culkin, and he started to create engineered booby traps and tunnels that would cave in on intruders inside his house. Which were wired to go off, and only he would know how to get around them, basically, because now, at this point, there were boxes and boxes on top of every little niche that you could see in this house. And they were basically living in a very, very tight prison of their own home, but they didn't see it that way.
Yeah.
So I guess they were just surrounded by... They just liked being on their own. That's how it was. They didn't like other people, and it kind of just expanded from there.
I can understand that.
I can understand as well. People are a bit shitty sometimes.
Yeah.
Social situations, eh?
I know.
So a lot of these were like little nests that would cave in on any possible intruders and just pin them down so they wouldn't be able to move. So, Langley spent most of this time tinkering with like various inventions, his pianos, his vacuum. Sometimes he would actually play piano sonatas for Homer while he could. He would also paint as well.
Yeah.
He would read to Homer from that massive library of his as well, which a lot of them were just, medical textbooks from Homer's days as in the medical profession. They refused to speak to professional medical treatment for both brothers because they feared that doctors would cut his optic nerve, and Langley believed that they would be able to bring it back by just eating oranges. Just by eating oranges, he said he should be able to heal. He eats about, say, 90 oranges a week or something like that, and he's already feeling a lot better. So, I admire their passion. I admire their passion.
Yeah.
And they say, well, we have a medical library of 15,000 books in their house. We decided we'd not call any doctors. You see, we knew too much about medicine. You must remember we are sons of a doctor. So they had they were stubborn, but when Langley would venture out the house at midnight, he would walk miles all over the city to get food, sometimes going as far as Williamsburg, Brooklyn, which I just looked up here. It's a next town over just to go out to get food at night, to buy as little as a loaf of bread, or, he would pick up food out of the garbage and collect food that was going to be thrown out by grocers and butchers to bring back to his brother Homer. He also collected countless pieces of abandoned items and trash that aroused his interest. So this was his time out, and whenever he would go out just to collect food, really cheap food, by the way, he would also add to his hoarding collection by little trinkets and oddities that you would see, because this would be the only time he would see something new, you have to remember. So it's quite shocking. But by the early 1930s, the Collyer Brothers' brownstone had fallen into disrepair, and their telephone was disconnected, so there was absolutely no contact with the outside world. It had never been reconnected because the brothers said they had no one to talk to. They then failed to pay their bills, electricity, water and gas, so that was all turned off. They took to warming the large house using only a small kerosene heater and a couple of candles. For a time, Langley attempted to generate electricity by means of a car engine, probably that one that was from his father in the back. But Langley would fetch water from a pump in nearby parks. Their only link to the outside world was via a crystal radio that Langley made. Very interesting, but they were so secluded. And neighbours and shopkeepers in the area, you know, they described the Collyers as generally polite, rational men, but they also thought they were crazy, you know, and why would you not? Because you only see them... They were basically enigmas that you only see at night. Or,
yeah.
It's interesting, you know, they're like a local legend, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, they both had sporty, droopy moustaches, and I think Langley, when he was seen, he wore like a boating cap as well as this massive tattered trench coat as well, so you can imagine what he looks like. He's just come off the Flying Dutchman.
Yeah.
Very out of the times, basically. But Homer had not been seen or heard from since he went blind and retreated from the world in 1933, so he was still a mystery to people. See, Langley was fiercely protective of him, and he would not allow anyone to see him or speak to him. That stems back to the fact that he wouldn't let anyone else get medical treatment to him as well.
I can understand why people would find them crazy.
Yeah, I can. I can understand both sides of the coin, really.
Yeah. I can understand, like, the brothers. Sometimes you do feel like just being a recluse and not talking to anyone. But to the outside world, their habits would definitely look a bit odd, I think.
It would, yeah. There was a time when I think the police knocked on their door to pay some income taxes that had dated back a while, and they actually busted into their property to do it. And by the time they got in there, they found Langley sitting ready for them, and he just got out a cheque for $1,900 out of his pocket, just like that, which in today's cash would be, I don't know, something like $30,000, $50,000.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of money. Just to brandish it and say, just get out. You know, he's paid his taxes now, just get out. And every time he would have an unfavourable interaction for the outside world, he would block up his door with more boxes, and it would just act to dishevel them even more from the world. And for a time, they weren't even heard from. They began to make news again when a gas company, Consolidated Edison, forced their way into the house to remove 2 gas meters that had been shut off in 1928. And the incident reportedly drew a crowd of thousands of onlookers. The brothers drew media attention in 1942 when the Bowery Savings Bank threatened to evict the Collyers for failing to pay their mortgage for 3 years. That same year, the New York Herald Tribune interviewed Langley. In response to a query about the bundles of newspapers that were kept in the brothers' home, Langley replied, "I am saving newspapers for Homer so that when he regains his sight, he can catch up on the news." And that is so sad, isn't it? I kind of want to hug him, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's really sad. But yeah, so in November 1942, the Bowery Savings Bank began eviction procedures and sent a cleanup crew to the home. Langley began yelling at the workers, prompting the neighbours to summon the police. When the police attempted to force their way into the home by smashing down the front door, they were stymied by a sheer wall of junk piled from floor to ceiling. They found Langley Collyer in a clearing he had made in the middle of the debris. Without comment, Langley made out the cheque for this is the one, for $6,700, 2016 equivalent of $98,208, paying off the mortgage in full in a single payment. I got it wrong, but that's the one. He then ordered everyone off the premises and withdrew from outside scrutiny once more, emerging only at night when he wanted to file criminal complaints against intruders, get food or collect items that piqued his interest. And for a time, everything was great. But then, on March 21st, 1947, an anonymous tipster who identified himself only as Charles Smith phoned the 122nd Police Precinct and insisted there was a dead body in the house. Now, we don't know why that is. Maybe it was the miasma of smells that you probably get from these kind of dead bodies, but... yeah, the caller claimed that the smell of decomposition was emanating from the house. As the police were used to calls from neighbours about the Collyer brothers' homes, a patrol officer was dispatched. The responding officer initially had a difficult time getting into the house. There was no doorbell or telephone, and obviously the wires to the phone were tapped off, and the doors were locked. And though the basement windows were broken, they were protected by iron grille work. And it's literally a prison at this point. Yeah, so the brownstone's foyer was packed solid by walls of old newspapers, folded beds and chairs, and half a sewing machines, boxes, parts of a wine press, and a numerous other pieces of junk. a patrolman finally broke in through a window in the second-story building. Behind this window lay, among other things, more packages and newspapers, bundles, empty cardboard boxes lashed together with rope, the frame of a baby carriage, a rake, and old umbrellas tied together. After 5 hours of digging, Homer Collier's body was found in an alcove surrounded by filled boxes of newspapers that were piled to the ceiling. Homer was wearing a tattered blue and white bathrobe. His matted grey hair reached to his shoulders, and his head was resting on his knees. There is a reason for this as well. I remember reading before that his condition had worsened so badly that he couldn't sleep normally anymore. He literally slept with his head on his knees in that one spot. The medical examiner confirmed Homer's identity and said that the elder brother had been dead for approximately 10 hours. According to medical examiners, Homer died from starvation and heart disease. That's really sad. Police initially suspected that Langley Collyer was the man who phoned in the anonymous tip regarding his brother's death and theorised that he had fled the house before police arrived. It was later discovered that a neighbour called police based on a rumour he'd heard. A police officer was posted outside the home to wait for Langley, but he never arrived. Police began to suspect that Langley was dead when he failed to attend Homer's funeral held on April 1st. Interesting, right? That was kind of, it's really sad.
Yeah.
At that point, they started to just take everything out, and that's when they started to find all those crazy items, and it's just a sad tale, really, isn't it?
Yeah. I feel sorry for Homer in some ways as well. And there's not necessarily much he could do about it.
What do you think happened to Langley?
I don't know. He's dead as well, I'm guessing.
Well, funny you say that, because there is one more bit.
Wow.
They started to take things away from the house. After the discovery of Homer's body, the rumours had begun circulating that he had been seen aboard a bus heading for the Atlantic City. A manhunt, along with New Jersey Shore, turned up nothing. And you would think maybe he was the one that killed Langley. Maybe he snapped through all this.
Yeah.
Reports of Langley sightings led police in a total of 9 states, so he was hunted for. The police continued searching the house, removing 3,000 books, several outdated phone books, a horse's jawbone, a Steinway piano, an early X-ray machine, and more bundles of newspapers. More than 19 tons of junk were removed from the house floor of the brownstone. The police continued to clear away the brothers' stockpile for another week, so you can imagine how much there was, removing another 84 tons of rubbish from the house. Although a good deal of the junk came from their father's medical practice, a considerable portion of discarded items collected by Langley over the years, approximately 2,000 people stood outside the home to watch the clean-up effort. On April 8th, 1947, a workman found the body of Langley Collyer, and he was 10 feet away from where Homer had died. Langley was found in a 2-foot wide tunnel, about 60 centimetres, with rusty bed springs and a chest of drawers. His decomposing body, which was the actual source of the smell, reported by the anonymous tipster, had been partially eaten by rats and was covered by a suitcase, bundles of newspapers, and 3 metal bread boxes. The medical examiner determined that Langley had died around March 9th. Police theorised that Langley was crawling through the tunnel to bring food to his paralysed brother when he inadvertently tripped a booby trap he had created himself and was crushed by the debris. His cause of death was attributed to asphyxiation. And then both brothers were buried next to their parents in an unmarked grave at Cypress Hill Cemetery, Brooklyn. There we go.
Wow, what a way to go.
I know, and it's incredible for a hoarding tale, I must admit. 98 tons of rubbish, did it say? That's incredible.
Yeah.
You couldn't do that if you tried. It would have to be inherited.
Yeah. I did like when you were listing all the things they had. It did sound a bit like the Generation game, where you've got to name all the things and then it's like a cuddly toy right at the end.
And a bendy bully. Yeah. Some of these things would actually be great prizes on one of those shows, because an early X-ray machine? Wow. I bet that was like a blow to the period as well. No one had seen anything like that for ages. Yeah. It's like a time capsule, really.
See, I think some of these things are worth collecting. Some things people collect because they're genuinely quite interesting, I think.
Exactly. Those newspapers would be great for the museums. Just incredible.
Yeah.
I think what really got me was the rubbish was so piled up, so stacked and so hard to remove that it had been they'd already put on a manhunt in 9 different states before finding Langley's body, which is literally just 10 feet away from Homer's, and it took that long to find it.
Yeah.
It's just incredible.
If you knew what you knew about Langley, that he was such a reclusive person, it seems slightly odd to me. They'd think he'd run away.
That's what I thought. Like, if they knew him as well as he appears in these stories, surely they would have known that his bond with his brother goes so deep. If anything, his bond with his house goes so deep that he wouldn't just leave it to the people to have a look at, would he?
Yeah.
You know, he'd probably keep the brother's body.
I was looking through a list of the weird hoarding stories, and there apparently was one woman who they found her dead body, and then while looking for hers, they found the body of her mother, who apparently she'd always had some excuse for why no one ever saw her mother again. So they think she might have been living in this house with her dead mother for years, and eventually she died herself.
And collecting retirement papers. Or
stuff like that.
Wow.
How can you do that?
That is sad.
Yeah.
You know, I guess you can't tell until you see the context of the situation, and maybe she was, no other choice, and that was like a one area where she could get away with some hope or something, but still, living with your dead mother that's Norman Bates level.
That's what I was just about to think. It's quite creepy, some of the stuff.
Half of that retirement check must have been spent on air fresheners or something, because my God, that would be horrible. But imagine the nightmares you would have,
Yeah, I'm a little bit squeamish about dead bodies, so I wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, I understand that, man. There's nothing crazy about that, trust me.
I don't want to be the weird one that doesn't like dead bodies.
Yeah, I'm not going to be that weird guy. Everyone loves a good dead body.
Yeah, who wouldn't?
We practically make films about them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is horrible.
Yeah.
I think, actually, not related to hoarding, but that reminds me of a story of... there was a storied apartment that collapsed once, and I think... I'm probably going to butcher this story, but it's really interesting if you get a chance to look it up. There was a woman who had apparently been dead for... When they found out that this building had collapsed, they were able to trace everyone that was in there. And apparently there was a woman who had been dead in her apartment for 3 years, but she had a missing foot.
Ooh.
It was someone else's foot or something like that. So they traced the foot back to a grave, and this grave had a missing foot. So for some reason, this woman had this dead person's foot in her apartment for around 3 years or so before she died. I don't know. I think I got it wrong, but it's one of those sort of stories, like real weird oddities. I think they're called anomalies, social anomalies.
Yeah.
But I love stuff like that. I really do.
Where would you keep that though? Would you have it on a shelf or something like that?
The bread box, of course. Nice. You wouldn't have anyone over, of course. You're probably one of these people that wouldn't have anyone over anyway.
Yeah.
So it's probably easy to get away with unless it starts stinking. Or you could do what they do in Scandinavia with the rotting fish and just keep it submerged underwater all the time.
Yeah, I think that's what you'd have to do, because you've just had it out anywhere. It's still decomposed, I would have thought. So unless they kept it in the freezer or something like that.
Oh my God, can you imagine? Shit. with the sweet corn and good lamb chops right next to it as well. Maybe it gives it a nice flavour, Apparently, okay, I don't want to put anyone off, and I don't want people to think less of me, but apparently humans taste like venison. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, well, now you do. Now you do.
So, what was your last meal then?
Oh, mine was meatballs, but a sloppy Joe, Matt. Sloppy Joe. Yeah, Joe was delicious.
If you were a cannibal and you were about to be executed, and if they asked you for a last meal, you would say a human, wouldn't you?
I don't know, man, because I don't claim to know the all end of the universe. So just in case there is an afterlife that deals with morality, I might just say, give me a steak instead, just to be on the safe side. If I'd already had a person by then, I'd be like, yeah, give me another one, or give me the guy who sentenced me. I'll take him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't. Just to be on the safe side, I'd be like, what, I'll have a very innocent steak if that's all right with you, sir.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Yeah, it would be brilliant if those last meal requests were you have to give them what they want.
You have to do it. Oh, that'd be awesome.
Right.
I want a chunk off of the Statue of Liberty's nose, and you have to do it. Yeah, that'd be awesome. What would yours be, anyway?
Oh, mind me. Oh, creme brulee. But if we're going to stay for something weird...
I don't know why I expected anything different. Your creme brulee is brilliant. Nice.
I don't know about something weird, though, that I'd have as a kind of last meal request.
I think what you'd want to do...
Eat the executioner.
Eat the executioner, why not? Then you can't be executed.
Yeah.
Logic. What I would do is you would want to get something that's so rare that it would extend your period of living.
Yeah.
So maybe something like, I want you to get me the golden tusk boar from Canary Island, or one of those golden-headed snakes of Snake Island. You know, those really rare snakes? Even though they probably find it and get it. Or something to piss everyone off. So give me the last white rhino. I'll have that. Just really piss everyone off. But you want something really rare that doesn't exist anymore. That's the only way that, you can work it in your favour.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea. I'm going to bear that in mind just in case I need that information.
Yeah. Look up the last existing animals and, maybe you'll have some sort of plan ready.
That's what I always like about, Charles Darwin.
Yeah.
One of his books before he wrote the Theory of Evolution book, it was basically him, he was going on some naturalist cruise or something like that.
All right.
And it's basically he was eating all these rare birds and stuff like that while chronicling them. So he's saying, these are really extinct, but I'm just going to eat another one while I'm here.
Nice. Apparently something happened with the Galapagos giant turtles as well.
Oh, yeah. I think I saw this on QI.
Yeah, that's it. They discovered an island with these giant... was it tortoise or turtles?
I think it was turtles. And, they were so nice, weren't they?
They were so nice that they were... And plus you could keep them as a good source for liquids on ship travels.
Yeah.
That they were just hunted to extinction straight away. So, wow, there you go. Kind of sad, actually, but...
Yeah, I think they said on QI, they didn't even name them or something like that for ages. They just kept eating them.
That's got to be a first as well.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
The story about the Collyer Brothers actually reminds me of a Midsummer Murders episode I watched.
Really?
Yeah, it's where this old guy gets a load of... They're like hoarders, and he gets a load of stack of papers to fall on his wife, because he wants her dead for some reason.
That sounds bloody epic.
And what's the other one? I'm not sure if you've seen it. There's a program called 1,000 Ways to Die.
Yes. I watched that once, and I was a bit pissed off that it only had about 3 or 4 reasons on the programme.
Yeah.
I was a bit young back then, but... yeah, I remember.
It's fantastic. And some of these are slightly made up, though. But the story they had on this one was that this guy had this massive porn collection.
Oh, yeah.
And his wife leaves him, and then he's watching a load of porn, and eventually he finds he needs to eat and drink. But he's so weak by that point, he has to crawl out of his house, and he accidentally catches some of his porn collection, and it just all comes crumbling down on him.
No!
And just kills him.
Oh, man, that's... he died the way he lived.
Yeah, and 1,000 Ways to Die has really funny captions that go with the deaths, and this one was he should have tossed away his collection or something like that.
Oh,
tossed off his
yes.
porn collection. It's brilliant.
That's perfect. Isn't it an American show?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's great. You have people who get anal prolapses or something like that when they lift something up. It's brilliant.
You heard it here, guys. Go check out 1001 Ways to Die. Old show by now, but it's still good.
Yeah.
I might do that myself, actually. Well, that's my story on the Collyer Brothers, and I guess that is the hoarding episode, in a way. Even though I'm sure we've done some sort of hoard speak before.
I'm pretty sure we talked about what we've collected before.
Maybe some Keanu Reeves memorabilia. Lots of Keanu Reeves action figures and Keanu Reeves posters. Because neither he or the actual merchandise will ever age. So, always be eternal, always worth money.
The person we sometimes record with, they collect Shia LaBeouf. The beef, however you say it. They collect his memorabilia.
Are you serious?
Yeah, got all the films, posters, calendars, all that kind of stuff.
I knew there's a reason I didn't remember this person's name.
Yeah, who'd want to know someone like that?
Yeah, I know, right? Shia LaBeouf merchandise. And they didn't share it with me. My God.
I know. Despicable, this person.
Despicable is the right word, yeah.
Oh, I didn't mention some of the things that I listed. Collection.
Oh, yeah, go.
Just do it quickly.
That's an added bonus, yeah.
Well, the top one was airplane spoon collection.
What?
Yeah, this person
Airplane
collected
spoons?
airplane spoons.
Oh, See, I love it when it's something that's really niche.
Yeah.
And they just find tons of these things. Like, you didn't even know these things were a thing.
They're not that interesting, though. Why you'd be interested in that, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I guess some people, it's not the individual product, but the fact that there's so many different designs of that product.
Yeah.
That it's worth collecting. And it's the collection itself that becomes its own addiction and not the individual pieces. Because they're probably never used anyway.
Yeah. Another one was rubber ducks, which I can kind of understand.
Yeah, I understand that. There's actually purposely so many different types of rubber ducks nowadays.
Yeah.
And they've been around forever as well, so it makes sense, I suppose.
Yeah. They are kind of quite zany as well.
They are zany, and they're iconic as well, really.
Another one was banana stickers, the little stickers you get on bananas.
I strangely acknowledge this, that whole doll sticker system and some of these other ones as well. Like, there is some sort of checkbook fascination to that.
Yeah. It's like people collect, like, football stickers and stuff like that. So I thought it was weird at first, and I thought it's not necessarily that weird, that one, actually.
Yeah, it's something that you don't pick up in a booster pack. It's kind of not meant to be collected, but it is. I quite like that.
It's like stamp collecting seems weird to some people, but I think it's quite interesting personally.
I think it's cool because it's a form where it didn't start. It's like the banana stickers. It wasn't meant to be collected.
Yeah.
And then it grew. It's self-aware of itself that it has special editions and things like that. You know, the penny blacks, which are really rare. And
there's a bit of history to it as well, isn't there, as well?
Exactly. You see things evolve, you know, and it's something quintessentially British about that as well, which I quite like.
Yeah. And then there's, like, other ones, like some guy had a Barbie doll collection. Those ones are always...
Oh, well.
People that collect them are always slightly strange, though, I find.
Yeah, exactly. You have your Barbies, you have your My Little Ponies as well, which actually, to be honest, doesn't seem that awe-inspiring because you get so many bronies these days that a collection isn't exactly something that's going to stand out now, is it?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, there's another one. This guy collects love dolls, which are basically blow-up dolls.
The ultimate player.
Yeah, and he dresses them, he, like, does their hair, and he gets his wife to buy the clothes for him.
Oh, he has a wife!
Yeah, and she was like, actually, I don't mind it, because we now spend a lot more time together than we would if he was doing up a car or something like that. Which I thought...
God, woman, she's so unsure of herself that she's like, yeah, I don't mind it because at least we spend time together.
Yeah, and he like, takes them into the mountains and does, like, selfies and stuff.
The cringe.
Yeah.
Oh. But at the same time, I guess it's just nice to know that no matter how bad your own collection gets, it'll never be as cringeworthy as a collection of sex dolls and a wife that actually acknowledges them as well.
Can collect them as well.
What, wives or sex dolls? Yes, you can. You can indeed, yeah. But you'll never outdo Genghis Khan's collection.
Now, how many did he have in the end?
Well, enough that we might actually be direct relatives.
Whoa. Oh, yeah. Him and Charlemagne as well, isn't it? I think, as well.
Mm-hmm. The Don Juans of that period.
Yeah. Naughty boys.
Less Don Juan and more get over here so I can fuck you Juans.
Yeah.
You know, they weren't exactly PC about it.
No. They make Russell Brand look, you know, quite... Like
what, was Russell Brand quite ruthless in the bedroom?
I'm not speaking from personal experience, but he is quite famous for getting around, we should say.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Oh, the other thing I heard, like, people sometimes collect, this is a bit more kind of creepy, on the creepy end. People, like, collect their nail clippings and stuff like that, and bits of their hair and sort of other people's hair.
Funny thing, Matt, I'm not trying to sound disgusting, but I could actually understand that more than, say, My Little Pony or something like that. Because I actually still have my baby teeth in a little cask. And obviously not my toenail clippings or hair, that would smell. But my baby teeth, there's something really nice about having those, and you can see the difference in how much you've grown, really.
Yeah, I can maybe understand if you've got pretty impressive nails, if it's, like, an interesting shape, maybe, or, like...
Yeah.
If it just looks, like, frightening. I can maybe understand that, but
it just somehow forms the Virgin Mary's face every time it grows out, or even Ainsley Harriet's or something like that.
Yeah, but apart from that, I can't understand that kind of collection.
Well, you and me both, brother. There is no reason for someone to collect, and at that point, you're never going to have a finite amount because you're just going to keep adding to it. And it's going to be weird when that one person you take down to your house that you want to impress tips over a bucket and they all just came falling out. And you're like, no, I'm making a model with things, like, how do you explain that?
Yeah, that's kind of awkward social interaction.
Man. And then you get more pissed at them tipping over your bucket rather than being embarrassed about them finding it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a kind of anal person.
It would have come to that point, yeah. Yeah, well, that was the hoarding episode. So, yeah, I enjoyed this, actually.
Yeah, it was a very good conversation. We can hoard this in our memories now.
Oh, ha, you clever sausage.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to stop doing this kind of thing.
That was witty, though. I'm gonna go back to my army of 6 spots that I've hoarded over the past 3 years, and just take pictures with my wife, and just everyday activities that everyone gets up to.
You sound really convincing there, Chris.
I do try.
Yeah, you sounded like you're trying to convince yourself.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is normal, right? It is normal. Yeah, it's normal.
Yeah. Well, I'm going back to my collection of cock rings now, so. Yeah, I have no reason to collect them. Just look good on the bookshelf.
Yeah. Yes. Oh well, you enjoy, and I know you will. I know you'll enjoy them rings.
Yeah.
Nothing wakes you up better in the morning than ringing the bell end. So. Oh. There we go, I got mine out. That's mine. That's my contribution. So, yeah, it was nice to hear from you, Matthew.
Yeah.
And it was nice to hear from you. Well, it was nice for you to hear us, viewers. And it was nice to be back for a little bit.
Yeah. You'll have to come back again soon. It's torture having to record for the other person.
Especially when you don't know their name. It's really annoying.
Yeah. Who was it? Oh, never mind.
Hopefully Jane doesn't treat you too bad.
No.
When you see her again. But follow us on the Facebook, The Dorks Deduction. You can follow us on the Twitters as well. We are on the Twitters. And leave us the twits. We like to read twits. And did I say that right, Matthew? It's Twitter, yes?
I think I'm not on Twitter, but I think it's Twitter.
Yeah, leave us a twat.
Twat, yeah.
And we'll twat you back. And you can also follow us on the Facebooks, the Insta follows, the Yargrams, the Wazzooks, and all the other social medias that we've forgotten to include. So enjoy. I think it is just Twitter and Facebook, though, guys. So you follow us on iTunes. Please have a listen to our other stuff, especially the ones I'm not in, because those ones don't mention anything to do with Jimmy Savile. Ding! I've mentioned him again. Thank you very much. Okay, so there we are.
Yeah. You had to bring up Jimmy Savile.
I did have to bring up Jimmy Savile because I wanted to, and that was my choice. So
you're an evil person, Chris.
I did. Anyway, I'll see you later, viewers, and I'll see you soon, Matt.
Yeah, ta-ta.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.